And it's Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which means it's time for Quick Fix Golf and all the gang to get together and talk about golf and different ways to play better. And I've got my partner here, Darren DeMaile. Hey, Darren.
How we doing, Bobby? I'm down here in Myrtle Beach.
And I'm here in Richmond, Virginia. And tonight we're going to learn how to cheat at putting. We figured it out. If you can't win, you might as well just cheat. What's the difference?
Cheaters always win, though, right? Cheaters always win, don't they?
No. I think they don't win in the long run because they got to live with themselves, you know.
Well, they're not cheating the right way then if they don't win.
Well, you know what, Coach, who was the coach of the Bears? Used to be the tight end. Ditka. He said, if you're not cheating, you ain't trying.
That's right.
But tonight what we're going to talk about is, and there you are, there's Darren. He's the smarty pants of the bunch. These long putters and bracing it against your body and taking the putter and bracing it up against your arm, into your shoulder, into your armpit. As far as I'm concerned, it's all cheating. They probably would disagree with me, but just because they haven't made it against the rules yet, and they should have, they took quite a long time to change that rule of bracing up against the chest, didn't they, Darren? It took a little while to do that.
Well,
I forgot what year they instigated that. But it's been 5 or 6 years ago, at least.
It was under the thumb of Mike Davis. So I don't know if we want to go off on that tangent about Mike Davis's reign at the USGA, but I'm pretty sure it was under his reign where these rules started to come into fruition. But it hasn't. Yeah, I think that's about right.
Well, the real purpose I had in this to help each other tonight is to say, if it's cheating, what is it that it's doing that's helping you perform better than you would have if you weren't doing it? So if you get into your mind that bracing the long putter against your chest was locking in the putter's path, it had a center point to work from. And if you could hit the ball in the center of gravity of the putter and swing the putter like a pendulum, you'd do better on long putts with the long putter braced up against your chest. Now, the putter grip braced up against your forearm, like you see in this picture below, of the two, that locks the face, which I think is far more detrimental. I think that should be illegal first before even the other, but anyway. Putting that against your forearm locks the face, and the ball's going to go where the putter face is pointed at the moment of impact, so that's really primo. I mean, it's almost like cheating. Why did that go backwards? There's the same change as the charge came with the swish of the long putter at the PGA Championship. Social media, never the calmest of places, was descending into an ever more rancorous pit of fear. They don't have that in Cuba. Adam Scott, who's yet to win since being united with the broomstick he delivered to such devastating effect a few years ago, and he narrowly missed out in the Belvedere in August. Bernhard Langer and Scott McCarron. I know Scott McCarron taking a lot of, because I know a little bit about the senior tour, and a lot of the guys are upset about him. Have also found themselves under attack as armchair viewers get excited about whether the quartet are breaking the rules by anchoring their putting stroke. The rule is very clear, he explains. It's anchoring against the body and doing it willfully and doing it deliberately. But if you are expecting the game's rules makers to suddenly outlaw the different putting strokes that you might perceive to sail close to the wind, you are going to be disappointed. Here it is. You look over here allowed. You can put the grip up against your forearm, but you can't put it up against your belly. Well, I wouldn't even want to put it against my belly anyway. Probably never find the putter again. Anyway, the other one, as you see, it's to the left, which says approved, is neither the forearm nor the gripping hand touching the body. The one not allowed is the forearm or gripping hand against the chest. Now, I had a talk with, I'll say Manuel, what the heck's, Darren, what the heck's his name? Help me out here. Jimenez,
yes.
Jimenez. And we were walking together then at the Scottish Club of Virginia. He thought the opposite that I did. He thought that having the club up against your chest was more detrimental than having somebody brace it up against their forearm. But I disagree. I think is the other way around. Now you also see these funny grips. Now, why are they doing all this? It's all because they have a problem with flipping their hands, which I'm going to show you in a second here. We're going to go back and there you go. Everybody's fighting that. That's death of the putting stroke. When you think, Darren?
Yeah, I agree with you for sure. I'm not really sure if in all cases it's a flip thing. I think it's in most cases it's a form of yips with elite players going to it. I wouldn't say I would completely disagree with flipped, but I'd say it's a form of yip when it comes to the elite player. I think it's more flip with the recreational golfer that doesn't know any better.
Let me go in here and show another. See this cross-handed grip? That's what everybody's doing to alleviate doing what we just looked at. And taking this butt of this golf club and putting it up against your forearm almost guarantees that you won't flip with the back of your left hand or have a wrist breakdown, if we want to call it that. And the problem with that wrist breakdown is as you do it, the club face closes, you're going to miss your putts to the left. That's what all the guys are worried about. Look at Sam Snead when he started putting with the putter in front of him. They cut that out. Matt Kuchar's got it right. He's got this long putter where he chokes down a whole bunch for short putts, then he holds it longer and puts it up against his arm for long putts. Because with long putts, we're talking about pace. We're talking about rolling the ball the right speed to get it to the hole and no further. If you three putt, you're generally 7 feet short or 10 feet past. It's not because you're too far to the left, too far to the right, unless there's a heck of a lot of break there. But you're usually short or past. And the longer putter, especially braced up against your chest, you've got a better shot at swinging it like a pendulum and learning to build the right tempo so that you roll the ball at specific speed all the time.
So I think this picture here is wrong, Bobby, and Matt Kuchar.
Yeah, it's not a long enough putter. He has one that's even longer than this.
No, it's not that. He's using the other arm nowadays. That he's not using the left arm. He's using the right arm for the longer putts.
Oh, I've heard of that running around. I saw a couple of pictures of that, and I wonder what the heck it was.
Yep.
So they're putting it up against their right forearm.
No, exactly on his right. Yep.
And why did they go to that direction?
I think it's kind of the same concept in there, but it's the first time I've ever seen anybody kind of do that. But I know that's what he's been doing.
We'll see if we can find a picture on that. Now you look at Jimenez and those guys; they're doing a grip just like this, kind of a thing. And all of them, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, they're just trying to find a way to not have the right hand smack it.
Well, I mean, you've said in the past, Bobby, about how Tiger uses his right hand when he's putting and he doesn't use his left. So he tries to use his right hand.
Yeah, as long as you can hold the angle. If you can hold the angle, you know, I do it. I mean, that's what I do. I feel like I'm pushing my right hand towards the hole with my right palm, which I think is somewhat like Nicklaus's idea as well. He sort of shoves it a little bit.
Yeah, he does. He actually, yeah, that's for sure. He uses the right hand. He calls it a piston, where he gets the right hand kind of moving towards the hole. But I think in general, when you're a right-handed player, your right hand is where there's a couple different forms of the yips. For a right-handed person, it's the right hand that typically gets the yips and not the left hand. And that's why you want to take the right hand out of it. You know, when we had Dave Stockton on, a couple months ago, he talked about how everything is a left-hand dominant rudder of the putting stroke. And the right hand's just kind of along for the ride. But as a right-handed person, the yips, that's where it's going to typically come from. It's going to come from the right hand kind of pushing. And it's, as I forget the doctor's name, who did a lot of research on the yips. It's a form of dystonia where it's just an involuntary anxious tremor that happens as a result of performance.
Well, I'm sure that's what happened to Sam Snead. And look at how short he's holding the putter when he had his little short putt. Look how he gets his hand way down low. Here he has a longer putt, his hand's a little higher. But look how he had grip all the way down.
Well, I think the important thing here is that he's looking down the line of play, where we can't do that really with standing to the side, and that's where I think the problem with this was he's kind of right on the line of play. which I think is how the game was originally invented. I think we need to stand to the side and look right down the line of play. Something similar to this picture here on the right, but I could be wrong.
I noticed that now I can't do this cross-handed to save my life. I just don't. I've putted the way I've putted for so long. But if I can maintain this angle right here that you see on the right hand, well, see, angle's gone, angle's held, and they're holding the angle by pulling with the left hand, and they're trying to do it all left-handed. And you say the right hand's on for the right, like you said, like Stockton said. But however, I feel like I have more feel in my right hand, especially in my fingers. Because Melhorn used to always say, if you reach in your pocket for a nickel, you know whether it's a nickel or dime with your finger because you can feel it with your finger. So I'd rather hold the angle with my right hand and have my left hand just not do anything.
So, like this picture here with Rory, if you draw a line straight up the putter, it's not pointing to his belly. He's using a Stockton method. So, I think when you're going to putt on an arc, the right hand has to have some flip to it to keep the putter pointing at the belly. I think you have to just define what kind of stroke you want to make here. So, I don't know, if I completely agree with that. I think it's just depending on the stroke that you're trying to make, and a lot like a Crenshaw or somebody along those lines, or a Mickelson that has kind of a arcing motion to their putter, they're going to feel a little flip in there. But Rory here, this is a picture when he was working with Stockton, and see how the putter grip is not pointing up to his belly button or to his belt buckle. It's pointing more to his left armpit, which is telling us a lot about what he's trying to do there.
He doesn't release the head.
He does not release the head, right? So it depends on what you want to do. If you're going to release the head, then that putter is going to pass your hands, no doubt.
Which Tiger does.
And that's interesting about Tiger. He does a little bit of both, and he's kind of one of the only people that I've heard that do it that way. He swings the putter straight back and through on a linear fashion, but he also has face rotation. So typically with somebody who has face rotation in their putting stroke, swings the putter on an arc, and they don't swing it straight back and straight through. So he does a little bit of both, and it's some, not many people do it that way. There's very few. I've never heard anyone besides him to have face rotation on a straight back and straight through path.
You see V1 now?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to pull Tiger up stroking. And as you mentioned it, and then we'll open up the phones. Now, I'm saying me, not that that's of anything to copy from anyone. I concentrate on holding that angle. I don't want that angle to release. Instead of trying to keep the left hand from not doing anything, if I hold that angle in my right hand, that there's no way the left hand can mess it up. So he doesn't change anything right there. And then, like you say, the putter is pointed more here, so it's released some.
Yep.
Where with McIlroy, it was pointed more there.
Yep.
Because he's keeping the kick out of the bottom of the club head. And look at Tiger's club head is up a little higher off the ground. And probably Roy's would be a little bit lower because he's.
Yep.
Does everybody get that?
Yeah, but I think the problem with your thought process there, Bobby, and it's correct, is that we're right-handed or left-handed, and if you're a right-handed person and you're thinking about that right hand, that's where the yips will start to become dominant, where the left hand will just play less of a dominant role, and you can just kind of use it as a rudder. I mean, I could be wrong, but based on the research that I've looked at about dystonia, it's more of the right hand for a right-handed person.
What's dystonia? I mean, you're as bad as my doctor. I walk into the doctor and he says, "How's your libido?"
Well, I used to play in the dystonia pro-am for years, so I used to support that.
What is dystonia?
It's a form of like MS type of thing, or where you have these tremors that happen in your hands. My grandmother had it, where her hands were always shaking, and my uncle had it, and you'll see it a lot. You got to recognize it when you see it.
Yeah, I went to the doctor and he said, "How's your libido?" And I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, "It's not very good, but I could shoot a hell of a Macarena." I thought it was a dance. But let's open up the phones here. Let me see if I can get everybody in here. Who would like? Let me. Oh, wait a minute. I know what I can do. Here's what unmute all. Who would like to ask a question?
Bobby, I have one.
Go right ahead.
Um, does the type of stroke that you're making depend upon what type of green you're putting on? In other words, what I've seen is that kind of the arcing stroke works better on slower Bermuda styled greens, and the straight back, straight through, similar to the Stockton method, works better on really fast greens.
Well, I'll answer it and Eric can answer because we'll probably have two completely different answers. For me, the arc stroke is more on long putts because you sort of
Correct.
can't help it. You
Yep.
can't help you can't help it. I mean, you're taking such a big stroke, it's
Yep.
going to be on an 18-degree arc.
Yeah.
Me personally, I do, which is probably wrong in some ways, but I'm more like a Lanny Watkins kind of putter. But from 4 feet and in, I'm keeping the putter face pointed at the target the whole time. So I'm sort of tucking it under and tucking it open as I stroke it. Completely different stroke. With me, I take my right hand and I shove it in the hole from 4 feet and in, where from a long putt I swing it like a pendulum. Go ahead, Darren. You tell them what you do.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, at some point, it's got to arc at some point. So it just depends on the length of the putt and, or the speed of the green. You can look at it either way. You know, the slower the green is, the bigger the stroke, the more you're going to have to arc at some point.
One thing you want to look out for in these Bermuda greens is you got to take into account the grain.
Oh gosh, here you go again with grain.
I'm telling you,
There's no grain anymore. There was grain when you were playing. There's no grain anymore.
baloney.
This is Jamie. I just played today and there was so much grain, I can't even tell you.
You tell them, Jamie.
Yeah.
Bail me out here, will you?
Yeah, I mean, with modern day, manicuring and the modern day greens, grain is not really playing much of a factor in there. And I wish it was an opinion of mine, but it's not. It's a fact.
No, you're right. You're right. Especially the new synthetic Bermuda grasses that are made in a laboratory practically, like the stuff they've what do they call it? Champion Bermuda?
You got Champion, you got the Tith
That stuff's hard as
Eagle.
a rock. I mean,
You
it's like
got a bunch of different types.
it's like
but
putting on glass. It's
yeah,
not like the old Bermuda grass when I was a kid growing up. I mean, it is a lot better. I mean, that's true. But I still, if I was playing even at where we are, Tupelo,
yeah.
I
Oh,
see
there's
grain.
definitely grain at Tupelo for sure, no doubt,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Now, how do you tell? The way you could tell, folks, in case you want to know which way is the grain, I look at the hole. And that's why I used to hate early morning starting times. They're very good looking. I looked at the hole, and if the hole is right here, and I look at the hole, and I see one side of the hole is nice and clean cut, and over here it's breaking off and looks like it's sort of torn up a little bit. That means this is against the grain, and this is with the grain. Because the grass doesn't grow straight up and down; it grows at an angle. So when they cut the hole like this, the ones on this side have a root. So that's why it's nice and clean. On the other side, you cut the root off because the root was like this. So now all that was left was the leaf, and as people put their hand in the hole, they knock the leaves off. So that's how you can say. But you can't rub the green with your putter. That's against the rules. Although the dummies you play with probably don't know, you can go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah, but you can see the color, the change in color. I mean, that's the biggest giveaway, right?
That's true too. Plus, I mean, if you look at where the water's going, that's usually where the grain's going to go too. I always look at a green from 100 yards out. I start looking at a green. 150 yards out, I can look and see how much tilt there is. Because so when you get up close, it doesn't look the same. And wherever that designer was going to get rid of the water, that's where the ball's going. At least that's how we always used to think. Jamie, is your microphone messed up?
No, can you hear me?
Just barely.
All right, I'll try later.
Anybody else got a question? Let them rip. Just unmute your mic. I've clicked unmute all. Then attendees can unmute themselves now. You can unmute your mic.
No, no.
Can you put up Crenshaw's stroke?
Unfortunately not.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you one thing I do like here. I don't see. I see if Darren likes it. I like the way this tiger maintains his Y. He maintains that triangle beautifully. You think, Darren?
Yeah, of course. Can't argue with that.
You know, it's always pointed right there. He's pointed right there. And he's pointed right there. The butt of the golf club all goes to the same center point. Look at that every time. Every time. Any questions? I say you can either work on your putting stroke and try and do exactly like what Tiger's doing right there and maintaining your triangle, keeping your hands quiet, not having to move a lot. Or if you get frustrated, take the club and put it up against your forearm right there like that. And that'll lock the face. So that the face of the golf ball is not going to move. Wherever you started it, that's where it's going to be. Or if you have a hard time with long putts, you're always short or always long. That's another thing. I see guys that show up there and they show up to the one-day school and they choke up on the putter all the way down to here. And you want to know why they're horrible at long putts. You saw the picture of Sam Snead. He's all the way down to the head for a 2-footer. And the hands further up for the long putt. So the longer the putt, the longer the putter. The shorter the putt, the shorter the putter. Because when you choke up, you'll have more control of the club face. Any questions?
Any tips for putting downhill?
Well, what I do, let's see what Darren does too. It might be completely different. Is I hold the putter lighter in my hands. If I'm going uphill, I squeeze the putter. If I'm going downhill, I hold it lighter in my hands. And I'm just very conscious of the tempo of my stroke. I want the tempo to be right because I want the ball speed off the face of the club to resemble somewhat what the tempo was. What do you do, Darren?
I think the way to look at the downhill putts is to think in terms of time, right? So if you've got 2 putts, one from 5 feet uphill, one from 5 feet downhill, and you think about how much time it's going to take for the ball to get up the hill or the ball to get down the hill, most people think that the uphill putt will be slower in time, where it's not the case. You're using gravity as an energy force on the downhill putt. So as the putt rolls down the hill, it's going to take way longer down the hill than up the hill to have the speed correct. So I like to think in terms of time. Just let this putt just kind of take its time to get down the hill, as opposed to an uphill putt where I want to feel like that putt's going to take really a short amount of time in there.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. That's a good point because hitting uphill, the ball's going to go faster.
Exactly.
Ball's going to go faster, and gravity, like you say, is going to make it stop. It's going uphill. Going downhill, it's going to go slower. And another trick I used to use as a kid was that I was always taught to look short of the hole, make the putt shorter than it really is.
Right. That's a good point too. Think in terms of that. Yep.
Used to do that. If it's uphill, look behind the hole.
Yep.
Used to do the same thing with iron shots. I was always taught don't look at the flag. Find a tree behind the green. Look at the top of the tree and hit the ball there.
Yeah, that's what Hal Sutton was talking about when we had him on. He was talking about looking at the top of the flag as opposed to the hole itself.
Yep, especially if you're throwing like a little 40 or 50-yard shot.
Yep.
People are always short. You look at any golf course, you go to the greens and you see all the ball marks on the front part of the green.
Yeah, everyone should revisit that webinar we had with Hal Sutton. He called it an epidemic that people are constantly short, and they need to take more clubs and think of more of the back of the green than the front.
Any other questions? We're happy to answer them.
I have one for you.
Go ahead.
Last week I was noticing I seem to be pulling my putts a little bit to the left, and I started working with maybe I'm right-handed, being a little bit more right-hand dominant. Before I never thought about it, so I guess I was 50-50, and I felt like I was getting it online better. Does that make sense? Have you heard of that?
Go ahead, Darren.
I'm not sure what the question is.
Yeah, spit it out again.
All right, so when I putt, I guess I'm equal. I'm like 50-50 with left hand, right hand. That's what I don't even think about. I'm 50-50. And I noticed I was pulling it offline to the left just a little bit, starting right out.
Okay, I got
Playing
you.
around with it,
Yep.
I felt like I'm swinging, or at least right through impact, swinging a little bit harder with my right hand and letting my left hand almost just ride. Maybe
Yeah,
like 60-40, not a lot, but I felt like I was keeping it online that way. Does that make sense?
Well, here's what I would say. As a right-handed golfer, it's going to be the lead hand. It's going to be your left hand that needs to be the dominant hand. So I would say, as you walk around the green, as you pull the putter out of your bag, what hand are you pulling it with? Most people, if they're right-handed, are going to carry the putter around in their right hand. They're going to pull it out of their bag with the right hand. And I would say start to become and develop a relationship with the putter in your left hand. So as you walk around the green, as you pull it out of the bag, develop more of that left hand relationship, because the left hand is going to be more of, as Stockton would say, the rudder of the stroke. And think of it in terms of this: when you brush your teeth, what hand are you using to brush your teeth?
You're getting kind of personal now, aren't you?
Well, no, not really. I mean, you're going to use your right hand, right? As a right-handed person.
Yeah.
Right. So the right hand is going to be, whether it's brushing your teeth or putting, is going to want to take over. So you've got to eliminate some of that, because when it does take over, it's going to cause some errors in there. So you have to start to develop. So tomorrow, when you go brush your teeth, feel how awkward it is to brush your teeth with your left hand. It's not going to be an easy task. So by developing a relationship with the left hand and stabilizing it a little bit more, taking the right hand out of it, you're going to get the club face coming in a lot more square.
All right, here comes Chico. Here's what Chico used to teach me. See, you put a line right there. The left hand is on that side of the grip. The right hand's on the other side of the grip. He used to say, it's never that the right hand took over, it's that the left hand stopped. So if we let's look at Brad Faxon just as an example, because he's a good one. As you see, as he goes to hit the ball, his left hand will be leading, whether it's putting or hitting a shot. It's really not. There you see, but the back of his left hand is leading. And he said, it's not that the right hand takes over the left hand. He said the left hand wasn't strong enough. The left hand stopped. So if you think of your left hand as people in the front seat of the car with a seatbelt on, and the right hand is the people in the back seat with no seatbelt on, if the driver hits the brakes, the people in the front seat, which is the left hand, can sort of hold themselves together, but then the right hand is going to go flying right past them. Boom. And you get whiplash. So that's the way Chico used to describe it. See, it's not that the right hand dominated, it's the left hand gave up. And I think that's some of what Darren's saying. You gotta get the left hand to lead.
You got to educate the hands. Like in Faxon's case, like if you pull him put him at the top of his swing, Bobby. In Faxon's case, he has to learn. Look at how far behind the golf ball he is there, right? So if you draw a straight line up from his left hip, right, there's a huge angle there. So no, upward, not downward, upward.
Oh, I got you. You know what I got you.
There you go. So there's a huge gap in there. So that's going to be kind of more of an upward tilt. So he's got to learn to keep the ball down with that backswing. So his hands are educated. No different than a putting stroke. You got to educate your hands properly. And if you're not using your left hand enough, your left hand is just going to let it flip and do whatever the right hand wants it to do. So you got to balance them out a little bit. And I think by brushing your teeth analogy is a pretty darn good one, because you just understand how weak your left hand is and how you have to educate it in the golf swing, especially when it's putting.
I'll try it tonight. I'll get my toothbrush and put it in my left hand and see what happens.
There you go. Right, exactly.
If my mouth wasn't so big, I'd probably miss it. Any other questions?
Oh, it's Jamie. I have not a question, but something that I do when I walk up to the green. I try to keep the putter in the left hand. And then when I'm practice stroking before hitting, I squeeze the club with my left hand and let go, like loosen the grip on the right hand, just to give myself the feeling that the left hand has to lead. So it's squeeze with the left hand, loosen with the right, train the brain to lead the left.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question of Darren here. That's a good comment. Darren, when Nicklaus sets up to the ball, which hand does he have that golf club in?
In his right hand.
Right.
Yeah, he was right.
Yeah.
So did he ever give you an answer for that? Why he did that?
Yeah, because he thought the right hand was the piston. He looked as the right hand as a linear motion back and through like a piston in an engine. But I like what Jamie's saying about squeezing the left hand. Yeah, the right hand has got to be out of the picture. And being a little firmer with the left hand is a good thing. I really believe so.
No, I think what Jamie's saying is help most people. The way I'm doing it is probably worse for most people.
I agree.
Yeah.
But it's worked for you. It's worked.
Well, it's just I came to a decision. I said either I have to teach the left hand to lead to do that, and I would watch Nicklaus growing up as a kid. You know, we all idolized Nicklaus. I'd set the angle with the right hand, and I'd feel like it just looked to me like he was just taking his palm and pushing it towards the hole.
Yeah.
So I decided, I said, well, instead of worrying about whether my right hand dominates my left, if I teach my right hand to do what it's supposed to do, it won't do it. And I felt like I had more feel in my right hand than I do in my left hand. But that was just me, there's so many different ways to do it out there that you got to have. That's the whole concept of quick fix golf, that, we can work with what works for you, but some people just feel it a different way.
Yep.
But nothing wrong with, squeezing that left hand and then putting the right hand on real. I know a lot of people do that hitting balls.
Yep.
Any other questions? We'll throw another one in there. No more question. Going once. Going twice. Going 2.5 times. 2 3/4. Did you learn something then, I hope? Anything else you wanted to add, Darren?
No, that was great. Really good. But I think, the whole topic of tonight about cheating and, we talked a little bit more about technique as opposed to kind of the topic of the webinar. Is it cheating or is it not?
Well, by the rules, it's not cheating for them to brace the club up against their arm, but I feel like it's far more, I don't want to say damaging to the game, but you look at all these robots out there putting. Just watching a little bit of the tournament last week. I mean, it's robotic, and and you look at the Shambo, got that thing almost stuck into his armpit.
Right.
And I just think it takes something away from the game. I don't know. maybe I'm wrong, you know.
Well, I think there's a lot of players out there, Bobby, that would say putting it up against your left arm is taking away from your feel. So,
yeah, I would say in some way that's exactly right. I mean, you're sort of giving up when you do that.
right.
You're saying I can't control the club face with my hands. I need to brace it up against something, but I'm saying that it shouldn't be allowed to do that. That's just my opinion.
Yep.
Doesn't mean it's worth a hoot.
Yep.
Any other questions, anybody? Now we're going to cut it off for tonight.
I have one final question, Bobby.
Go right ahead.
How significant do you feel is putter fitting?
Oh, very significant. Darren has that putting blast thing. Tell me about the putt blast thing you have there, Darren.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So it's a measurement device that will show you everything you need to know about your putting stroke and how your putting stroke. Right. So I have this one client. His name's Ray, and we're fooling around with the putting device, and you know his stroke is pretty consistent with the amount of rotation that it has back and through. So the joke was, let's go to the superstore and try all these different putters, and different putters are going to allow for more or less rotation of the face. That's one thing Phil Mickelson does when he starts to get a little bit too rotary with his putter face. He goes to more of a mallet putter, which kind of slows it down a little bit. So our joke was, let's go to the superstore and try every putter in there and find the one that will match up with his stroke to or the rotation of his face to the balance of the putter. So it's essential that you match up the putter not only with height and length and lie angle, but also to the amount of rotation that you have. And we really don't think of it in terms of that, but you got to identify what you're trying to do, and then you match it all up. So there's a real science. And then the color of the putter and then the lines on the putter also make a huge difference on there. So putter fitting and all of that can really get in depth, but there's a lot of science to it that makes a lot of sense that we really don't think about. And I guess my last point on this is that modern day putters, you can hit it anywhere on the putter face and still have a full transfer of energy into the golf ball, where you get a putter from like Costco or something a little older, the transfer of energy into the golf ball is going to be significantly less because of the way putters were designed even like 10 years ago. So there's a huge amount of science that goes into it.
That answer your question?
Absolutely. That's the next step, I guess.
And one thing Darren mentioned is very important, is that your eye and how you see the head of that putter and the lines that are on there and how that perception is to your eye is so important. You could hand it to the next person and they don't see anything like what you see.
Does this mechanism that you're using, this device, does it tell you whether you should be using a mallet or a blade? Is it a pendulum?
Like let's say you don't want to change your stroke. All right, we measure your stroke. You don't want to change your stroke, and then it'll tell you, yes, you should be using a mallet or you should be using a blade.
Okay.
If you don't want to change your stroke.
And they don't know what kind of stroke they have, so they have the wrong putter a lot.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
I'm trying to see if I have a way to tell what kind of stroke that they have and if they're using the right putter.
Yeah, and that's using the blast device will tell you exactly that. It'll measure what you're doing, and let's just say you don't want to improve your technique, or your technique is X. This is the best fit for. It's no different, Jamie, than fitting for a driver. Like if you're hitting down with a driver, you want to have a driver with a ton of loft so you can get optimal launch, right? So that's what happens at a lot of driver fittings at the superstore. People don't want to change their technique. So you're getting rewarded for bad technique with the driver that's fit for that technique. So it just depends on what you want to do. If you want an arcing stroke, that's fine. this is the putter you need. If you want something that's a little different, then you go with this one. But yes, we can do that based on the technology and say, okay, well, based on your stroke, this is what you're doing. This is what you need. Or do you want to have better technique? You need to do this. So absolutely, it gives you a great idea of what you're trying or what putter you should be using.
And can you do just a lesson on a putter using that? If someone wants to come in and check out their,
Yeah, of course. Yep, exactly. Yep. And then, of course, there's parameters too, for whatever putter you're using, whether it's a face balance putter or a toe hang putter, whatever putter you're using, there's some parameters you have to go by. So if we're using an arcing stroke, let's say for an example, you go back 10 inches in backswing, you're going to have 5 degrees of face rotation in there. So if you have 10 inches of backswing and you have 10 inches or 10 degrees of rotation, that's way too much. So there's definitely some parameters still that we have to look at, but it'll give you a good idea of what would be best suited for you without changing your stroke.
I like it.
All right, gang, I hope you enjoyed it. We'll post it in the members only section. And so it can be reviewed. And I thought it was pretty good.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Glad you joined us, Jamie.
Thank you.
Yep.